Hello, I am Tara.
And I'm Jill.
We're the authors of the Dining on a Dime cookbook. And on yesterday's show, we kind of got off topic. But this is an important subject to us only because we get this question every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. How do I save on organic foods? Now, we're going to go into what we were saying yesterday, but I would like to ask for you to wait till the end because we also had a little note that we wanted to add at the end, so please watch the whole video and then also watch the ending when you see us cut from where we were talking live, because we have something else we want to add into addition to that.
On organic food, quite a while back.
No.
I know, I'm sorry. I have to say it. I've never had a chance, so I'm saying it. But I want to explain to you why this really is a spirit of fear, because they went and this whole thing was on this
lit up the comment.
this CEO. The CEO, if I named the company right now, every one of you just about even would know who this company is. When they first started the company, the board of directors, one of the men in the board of directors said,
Protect me, please.
they're going to see
Protect me from
child
the
abuse. One of the board of directors said, okay, we've got this organic food that we're going to try to do this whole company on organic food and sell to people. How in the world can we convince, or are we going to sell this to these people when the food is exactly the same? He said these regular apples are exactly the same as our organic apples. How in the world are we going to talk them into paying 4 times the amount for our stuff over regular apples? He said nobody in their right mind is going to do that, to pay that much more for. I know I'm getting in really deep
I
here.
have to deal with the comments.
I know you do, but I'll just say this really fast. It'll be over fast.
Blame it on your mother.
And he said, there's no difference. How are we going to convince them that there's nothing we can prove is any better? They had no proof that it was any better.
It's not higher in nutrients, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not anything. And the CEO of the company looked at him and said, when I started this company, I have that all figured out. We have, and he named this exorbitant amount of money for advertising. And he said, we're going to tell everybody that if they don't eat our organic food, they're going to have health issues as far as cancer and heart problems, and they have to eat our organic food or they're going to get sick. And he said, you mark my words, they're going to buy that stuff like crazy. This was 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He said this. And look what's happened. And I knew about it then. I thought surely people wouldn't do this. Surely they wouldn't do this. And there's the reason why there's no study. Well, you talk to that.
Well, we talked to a scientist.
We're really getting in deep. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did.
I am so sorry.
We talked to a scientist who is a professor of chemistry at a fairly large university recently, in person.
But he was hesitant to be interviewed on camera.
He did not.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be.
He wasn't as brave as we are spitting it
He
out.
didn't want to be interviewed on camera. I did ask, and he politely declined because he didn't want to get in the middle of it. But he said, and this is the kind of person that I honestly thought would say, yes, you need to eat organic food and all that. And he said, you know what? He said, honestly, most pesticides are water soluble. If you rinse them off in water, 99% of it comes off. He said, people are going to die from the stress of worrying about what they're eating before they're going to die from harm of eating foods that have been grown with pesticides and herbicides. Now, this came from a professor who I honestly thought he was as granola as they get, like we like to say. And I thought for sure he was going to say it. And he said, you know what? He said, live your life. He said, my mom is 85 years old in a nursing home. And he said, I don't know that I want to live to be that old. Having someone have to take care of me, they have to feed me. She can't go to the bathroom by herself. And he said, live your life and enjoy it and stop worrying about what you're eating.
Well, this is actually kind of connected to, I think it's partly because with the internet, everybody feels like we have access to all this information. Unfortunately, it's not always correct information.
No.
And there's so much information that we have to make decisions about things that people never even thought about before. But the thing is, I think what he was saying, and what I've been saying all along, is what is the probability of this being a problem? Like there are a lot of things that have a 1 in a billion chance of killing you. But the thing is, that's such a small probability, it's not worth worrying about.
Like the arsenic in your
Well,
rice.
and I was going to say, we had some people were really upset about there being arsenic in rice 6 months ago or something.
Yeah.
And I did some research, and there was a thing that had been reported all over the news, and that's the first clue that it's a major problem. That it's a major problem, that you shouldn't be listening to it, because if it's reported all over the news, or it's shared a lot on Facebook, or some guy who has ads that say grocery stores fear him on the internet says it on his blog, those are not good sources of information. The thing is that I did some research and found out there was a study that they were referring to, and it said that they thought that possibly as many as, what was it, 2 in 100,000 people might die in their lifetimes as a result of arsenic from food. But I was thinking, 1 in 89 people dies from car accident. And I went online and I looked up the insurance.
And people are still driving cars. Nobody's talking about not driving cars.
The insurance industry keeps a list of statistics, and I can't remember what their group is called, but you can type in probability of dying from, and it's like the first thing that comes up is this insurance thing. And I was thinking, to worry greatly and change your entire life over something has a 2 in 100,000, possibly a 2 in 100,000 probability of killing you, but you still drive your car, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, Tara and I have dealt with this type of thing for years.
Yeah, just because there may be some connection somewhere. I mean, I'm not afraid to go outside because there's lightning sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, do you not
I
go
don't go out
outside
in the- I don't go
because
out in
you
the
get
storm.
sun? I mean, do you never go out in the sun because you might get cancer?
Yeah, I mean,
You can't
but
live that way.
Tara and I have dealt with these types of things for many, many years, and you know what I hear in people's voices on the comments and stuff? There is so much stress because they're spending money on special food they can't afford to buy. There is so much stress because of fear and worry about it, that's what's going to kill them more than anything. Even if there was a chance there was something, which they have no studies because there is nothing really. Not if you're honest. Now, it's like that company. They will say, if you watch, there's clue words like it could, it might, there's a chance.
It can cause.
Yeah.
Well, and there's the thing is,
There's all clue words when you know they have no proof.
and I saw a few people commenting and saying, in my opinion, this is a problem. But is your opinion because you heard people say it? Because one of the things that's really a big problem in our culture is it's people hear things, and depending on how scary the story sounds, that's what they use to determine whether it's true or not. But the thing is, to know if it's true, you kind of have to find evidence. And if you found evidence if it's, hey, there's a blogger that said this on his conspiracy website, I wouldn't really call that evidence. I typically will look for XYZ University did a double-blind study that's been verified in a medical journal by some other group.
Or talking to the scientists like Tara did.
Or talking to chemists, because a lot of the things that people are worried about in chemistry, it changes.
Yeah.
Like sodium actually is, sodium in certain forms is nutritionally good for your body, but sodium is toxic and will kill you in other forms. But because the way chemistry works, different components bond to other things, and something that's terrible might not be terrible then. And so that's why.
Well, I even years ago, I used to say, if you can't pronounce it, then it's not good for you. Well, there's a lot of things now there's no way I can pronounce it, but everybody swears up and down they're so wonderful for you.
Being gluten-free, I am very thankful for xanthan gum. Now, what is xanthan gum? Nobody knew what that was 20 years ago. Now we know. It's just a filler that enhances the palatability of food with the texture and that kind of thing. It sounds like it's a crazy, crazy chemical. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. A lot of these chemicals, we're all made up of chemicals.
I know.
Water is a chemical.
Yeah, everything's about our body.
Well, that's the thing that's important to be aware of is you can call. When I was in television, this was one of the things that a lot of people on TV, when they report things or rely on these details, that pretty much anything that has two different atomic units put together is a chemical.
Mm-hmm.
So you can call things chemicals, but are they dangerous? Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was talking about the scary thing, though, people can say scary things, and because it's scary, everyone else believes it.
And they use scare tactics to
So-
go ahead.
So Mike's, being, me, get it together, people. But Jennifer says, Mike is trying so hard to be nice. Stop being paranoid, people. Seriously, listen, none of us are getting out of this alive. Period.
The
We're all
probability of
gonna
dying
die.
is 1 out of 1.
Now, your probability of dying in a car accident over getting cancer from something like pesticides or herbicides is 600 times more, or something we saw, or something somewhere, of getting cancers. It was a huge amount. I can't remember what it was, but hundreds of times more of dying in a car accident over even just plain dying from cancer. So you got to stop worrying about all this.
My dad had one of the best heart specialists in the country at one time, and they asked him, okay, what do I have to change? Is it my diet? Do I need to change my diet? He said, people don't realize it's not the diet, it's the stress in your life that causes your weak heart to do these things, and you've got to get the stress. He said, I always recommend counseling to all my heart patients because they need that way more than their diet changed. And, that rang bells in my, set bells off of my what?
I can't say it on air.
Jennifer says, what if it's the pilot's time to go and not mine?
Well, then you better hope you can fly a plane. But,
Well, and the thing is that a number of people also have kind of just been, a number of people have also been saying, well, I had some terrible condition until I stopped eating this. That might be the cause, but the thing
and
is,
people have food sensitivities. We get that.
Food
That's
sensitivity
okay.
is totally
Allergies,
different.
That's
but the thing
fine.
is, there are other possible causes for things if it's not actually, like, kind of just saying my gut says is not necessarily true. Like, my grandmother got cancer and died eventually, but while she was still alive, she was just sure saccharin was what killed her, because that's what they were talking about in the news at the time. That was the scary story. Since then, I don't like saccharin really, but the thing is that it's been studied greatly and it's back on the market, and the reason why is because they couldn't actually find evidence that it was hurting people.
But also,
in the end, the doctor said that my grandmother probably died from a lot of fried food.
Well, the thing is, you've got to be very careful because mentally
and genetics.
Genetics is huge.
Yeah.
Genetics is huge. I don't care if there's cancer in your family or you're gonna.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, if your family has a predisposition to cancer,
Or diabetes
Or
anything.
diabetes
the
or what-
I don't care
you do
what
what
you
you need
eat.
to
The
do for
chances
that.
are pretty good you're gonna
But-
have it. But the thing is, what I have found is there are more people that believe sometimes, 80% of the time at least, that they think the food is bothering them but because they believe it's your body will react the way you think it's going to react to different things. If you think sugar is bad for you, you can convince yourself, you may not have any problem with it, but you can convince yourself that sugar is bad for you, and every time you eat it you can make yourself sick because your mind can tell your body to be sick. So be careful, make sure you're just not making excuses too and stuff.
Dora says, amen. My son is a chemistry professor, and he says I will die of old age whatever I eat. I'm already what?
Oops, sorry.
I
I am already though.
am already though. Okay, Amy T said, if it starts as a breaking news ad, we will tell you at 6, then it's fluff. If it's something you really need to know, they will tell you now.
And I can tell you, having worked in television for 20 years, that is absolutely true. And I thought it was funny because one time, I've been a big critic of this kind of stuff forever, but one time it was actually a Wichita news station when we lived here, and they came on and they said,
Careful.
is this common household item killing your children right now? The story at 10. It was like, if it was really killing the children right now, would you hold the story till 10?
Yeah.
But the idea is terrify you into watching so that the advertisers get paid.
Yeah, it's all. And guys, listen. Denise missed your chocolate, so show her all your chocolate while I'm talking.
Oh, look at here. Look what she got me. Can you, envy, is envy happening out there? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
here's one thing I would like to say. I have a lot of really good friends online that I dearly love and dearly respect who do not use chemicals. And y'all know who you are. Here's the thing.
But you highly respect them.
I highly respect them. I love them a lot. But when I go on their YouTube channels and I see their videos talking about organics and all their stuff, I don't go and start spewing my opinion on it. Now, I have actually talked in person with these people, and we've had a decent conversation. But neither one of us gets nasty about it. Neither one of us yells. And I have to say, if you think we are wrong and you feel the need to comment, you are being wrong. Because when you're getting nasty and mean, if you don't agree with us, so what?
Yeah.
You don't need to say anything. I don't go to my friends' YouTube channels and say, well, you're just wasted all your time and energy picking all those dandelions. Get some 2,4-D and get rid of them. And so I don't do that, because if they want to do that, I'm totally okay with it. I truly am. I really don't care. And I don't understand why. It's especially when people are talking about regular food, the organic people come and really land blast you and are mean and nasty and hateful to the point where I have had to block the words organic pesticides and herbicides in my comments so those comments don't even come through on my YouTube channel. It's ridiculous. There is no reason to be fighting and arguing over this. It goes back to the stress thing.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
That's what's happening. It's like tearing people apart. It's just tearing
it's ridiculous.
And when it starts doing that, that's not a good thing, no matter what it is. When it's tearing people apart and hurting people.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason. And my friends who believe in the organic and that's all they want to do, I still love them. We still have a ton in common. Just because we don't agree on that doesn't mean that we're not going to be friends.
I never ever said anything about organic, anything for years and years, because I lived in Boulder, Colorado, girl, in the 60s, so you can imagine.
Organic capital of the
I
world.
never even thought anything. I mean, I didn't really think anything about it. If they wanted to do that, it didn't bother me. But what I get frustrated with now is that people are making an issue, a cause out of it.
Yeah, there's no reason.
And it shouldn't be. Causes tend to hurt people sometimes. You know, they can get really out of control and hurt people and things like that. And so when it turns into that, it's not a good thing, I don't think.
Yeah, and even the fast food and processed foods.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. Honestly, I've been thinking about going on the McDonald's diet.
What?
Eating 1,200 calories of McDonald's every day, because there was a guy who actually did it. A guy who went on the Twinkie diet. It is not what you eat. It is how much you eat. You can eat all the organic, homegrown food in the world and still be 50 to 100 pounds overweight, which is way worse
for you
than
any of
the pesticides.
Others, yeah.
So, and I'm right there. I've got 40 more pounds to lose. I'm not saying I get it. I have the same problem. I'm a stress eater. I get it. But here's the thing. You cannot just keep worrying about this stuff. You're going to drive yourself crazy.
Well, and Tara's not endorsing fast food particularly, right? She's just saying...
I say go for it. If you eat your
saying
1,500 calories a day and it's all McDonald's, go for it.
Obsessing about something greatly is a big thing. It's kind of like the, what do you call it that you're always talking about? Portion control.
Portion control, yeah.
Tara was using portion control to prove that it works. And so far it's been working great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do we have any more?
Okay, so that just totally took a whole turn to where we thought we were going with this show. All right. So, all right, so I know we kind of got on a little rant there, but there's one other thing that here's the thing, guys.
This is why this is so important to us, and we're so so strong about this, or what do you want to say?
50 Years of Frugal Family Favorites, not just beans, 50 Years of Frugal Family Favorites was the original name of this cookbook. And why it was 50 years was because it came from my great-grandma's, my grandma, mom, and I, all of our recipes. My great-grandma almost starved to death back in the early 1900s.
This is why this is so serious.
This is why this is serious. I saw my 85-year-old grandmother cry because she remembers eating her last meal and she thought she was going to die when she was about 6 or 7 years old. Now, this is why this is important to us. Because we hear all the time, well, Grandma and Grandpa were great before pesticides and herbicides were invented. They did great. Look how strong and look how healthy they were. Guys,
why do we need fertilizers? They did wonderful.
They were not healthy. They were not well. They worked darn tootin' hard, but they were not healthy and they were not well and they were malnourished because they did not have the fertilizers to grow the food efficiently to have their own food. Yes, they canned their own food. Yes, they grew their own organic garden vegetables, but they could not grow enough of them because they didn't have the proper fertilizers and they didn't have the proper pesticides to keep from devouring their crops. Guys, massive crop failure is a real thing. My grandparents had their crops literally wiped clean, clear to the ground with pests. And you will notice we have not had those problems since we've had pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers because it's an efficient way to grow food. They are water soluble. You wash them off of your fruits and vegetables and you move on. The same thing with the GMOs. I'm sorry, there is absolutely no evidence anywhere, none, that GMOs are harmful for you. They are saving lives all across the world. They are keeping kids from getting blind in foreign countries because vitamins are being added.
Why do you think they're starving in foreign countries? They would give anything to have our pesticides and fertilizers. They would give anything to have it so they could grow the food they need. When the soldiers for World War II, do you remember when the soldiers
I don't personally remember. You maybe personally remember.
But when the soldiers during World War II were recruited in for the service, we're talking farmers, farm boys, they found that a good percentage, a large percentage of them were malnourished because they weren't growing enough food. And so they started doing the vitamins and that's when cereal and different things started having vitamins.
That's why we have fortified cereals and breads.
Because it started at that point in time because they found out American people were starving
and malnourished.
And we don't hear that in history. We don't see any of that. And we just think, well, let's go back to when Grandma did things. And we have no idea what it was like. No idea.
You know, and I'm all for homesteading, old-fashioned type. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I have my old stove. I have all my old stuff. But I guarantee you, I will not give up. Well, okay, maybe it would be nice once in a while, but electricity has made our lives easier. Running water has saved millions and millions of lives running water alone. Huh?
Sewer.
Having sewer. Everyone says, oh, let's get a composting toilet. Okay, that's good in theory. And yes, you can compost manure to get it to a usable state. But the thing is, guys, people were not doing these things properly, and there were diseases and malnutrition that people were dying from because they were not getting the right nutrients. Thyroid issues.
Oh, people used to go around with huge
Horrible
goiters.
thyroid issues. You know why? Because they weren't getting the iodine they needed. Do you know why we have iodized salt? Because people had horrid thyroid issues. Sea salt is great. I love it. I eat it occasionally. But I'll tell you, I'm going to eat my processed bread and my processed, or my salt with iodine in it. Because those nutrients help us. My milk with vitamin D. Raw milk, guys.
Well, it seems like everybody's using mega amounts of vitamins now. I think part of it is because they've gone away from anything that had the foods that had these vitamins in. So now they're getting malnourished. They're not having vitamin D like they did. They're not having vitamin B because they're staying away from the processed cereals because they're so horrible. And it's backfiring.
Yeah, and as far as raw milk goes, guys, there is a reason why the government stepped in to pasteurize milk. People were dying.
Yeah.
And don't tell me it was a conspiracy.
My friend almost died.
Two of
died.
Mom's friends in totally different states.
Now that's a lot of people for one person to know who almost died. You know, who lives in the city from drinking raw milk. There's a reason why a lot of these things were put into place. And like with the pesticides, a lot of people say, well, I can use just natural pesticides and it keeps everything nice and under control. You know why? That's because the whole area surrounding you and everybody is using pesticides. It's helping you to control your little tiny area. And if you're not using them, and the perfect example of this is the bed bugs. In the 1990s, they quit using a certain type of pesticide in California because they thought it was just horrible, and so they stopped using it. Well, it took like 5 years, maybe 10 years, if that much. And guess what? They started finding bed bugs everywhere. Every place was starting to get infected. They were traveling across country to the big city. These bed bugs were being. I never heard of one person in my life having a bed bug in their house growing up. For years and years, never heard of anybody having a bed bug.
People dying from spider bites.
Yeah, I've heard of so many people that I know personally that have bed bugs. I mean, it's crazy, insane.
Yeah, people die from spider bites.
Yeah.
That's another huge one.
You don't realize those pests kill your children.
Yeah.
I mean, you're worried about the pesticides that could, or you think they're going to give you cancer.
With no proof yet.
No proof.
Yeah.
You'd rather chance that than the definite proof that years ago people died from these insects biting their children and killing them. I'm sorry.
And so we're here to tell you, Grandma and Grandpa were not doing well.
No.
And this is firsthand account from my great grandmother who told me this personally told me this. And they, they ended up getting food. Thankfully, her dad walked on snowshoes in the middle of December to a town 50 miles away literally in a blizzard. This isn't one of those stories. He really did go in a blizzard 50 miles to go get flour for them. And after being gone 3 weeks, they had eaten their last meal and he didn't come back, so they assumed he had died on the way. And he showed up the next day. And she said, I have never been so thankful to see food in my life. We have gotten so obsessed with the food. It's absolutely ridiculous. And here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of friends who really believe in eating organic and that kind of thing. I am not talking to any of you. No,
you don't mean you're not talking to them anymore. You're just
we're not talking for for those people that if you have already made up your mind that organics are the way that you and your family need to eat, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I am telling this for the people who come to us and say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't afford to eat organic food. If you cannot afford to eat organic food,
Don't feel guilty about it.
don't feel guilty about it. There have been, let's see, it's been what? 70 probably years now, close to 70 years now that they've been using this. I would think after 70 years, if it truly was that bad, it would have been outlawed right now. I'm sorry, I don't believe in the conspiracy that big pharma and big whoever and all this other big whatever has convinced the government that it's going to be safe when it's not. I think if it was that unsafe, like cigarettes ended up being, a bad thing, they would say, you would truly find out from somewhere. Now, having said that, this is for the people who are on the fence, who can't decide, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't pay my bills, but I really, I'm terrified of feeding my kids this stuff. Grow a garden if you want. That's fine. Grow a garden. But for the majority of you, we're here to tell you this is our view on it. Stop stressing out about it. You get in a car every single day and drive all over creation, and yet your chances of dying in a car accident are hundreds of times higher than dying
or
from
a farmer running a tractor and baling hay and stuff like that. It's just
an accident of some sort. Your chances of that and having a stroke or a heart attack from the stress of worrying about it are way, way higher than anything the pesticide residue that you have washed off your fruits and vegetables will do.
And I still go back to it. I'm at an age now where I know a lot of older people that live to be like 85, 90 years old, very old, and they lived on all this stuff that everybody's trying. The preservatives, all this stuff, and the processed American cheese, all this stuff they have eaten, and I mean they ate bologna. Bologna and American cheese was a staple in our home. My dad is 90 years old. My mom is 90 years old. My grandmother lived to be like 100, I think, or something or another. They ate this type of food. And Tara's, her side, all the great-grandparents and stuff.
Here, I've said this before. I've had 11 grandparents when I was born. I had 11 grandparents and great-grandparents. And of all of those, one did die from cancer. One died from a hospital mess up. All the others lived to be more than 90 years old.
And the one that died from cancer, he went and there was extreme cancer in their family. It's just genetic. And the thing was, he was a very stressful man.
Yeah.
Very stressful man. And it was stomach cancer he died from. He had horrible ulcers and things all of his life. So this shows you how the stress was probably what caused it more than what he ate compared to the other grandparents.
And they've eaten preservatives. I say eat your canned food and eat your macaroni and cheese, guys. Seriously, it's not going to kill you. If you're having financial problems, the stress of the finances is way worse than any of the boxed macaroni and cheeses you will eat.
And the stress you and your spouse is going through, or even just from fighting over it, is going to do more harm to your children. Not just physical harm, but emotional harm and spiritual harm. You don't take any of that into factor when you're worrying about getting enough money to buy the organic food. And you need to start factoring that in because that hurts your children, that emotional. They can almost overcome any physical thing if they are emotionally stable and secure with their parents. But if you're stressing them out over your debt because you're buying all this expensive food, you're doing them an injustice more than that food.
Or you're harping on it all the time. My word, people.
About it well.
Stop talking about it all the time. So anyway, here's the thing. That's our stance. We have been researching this for more than 15 years because this is an issue. And
I have even longer.
We have never addressed it because we don't want to start a controversy because truly, I have great friends that truly believe that they do not want to eat those things, and that's fine. I respect their decision. I still love them to death. I don't think anything less of them. But this is for our viewers who are on the fence. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, if you feel you have a different opinion than me, that is fine, but just waste your breath and don't share it. We are not going to keep those comments. They will be deleted. Right off the bat, I've warned you. I don't want to see anything. We have researched it and researched and researched it. I have been to doctor after doctor. And one other real quick thing, this is not what causes our chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Don't give me that. I'm not going to listen to it either because I know it's not true. You can believe whatever you want, that's fine, but don't leave it in the comments because my assistant who is taking care of the comments will delete it. I'm not going to even see it, so just don't waste your breath, okay? All right, so we've got that on the table now. That is where Mom and I stand. Unless we see some major study come out that changes our mind.
If somebody comes up with something major, I'm willing to
I am
read
too.
it
Yeah.
and accept
Yeah.
it. But I have found negative, yet.
We haven't
Nothing
found anything.
positive.
So please visit us on livingoniadiet.com. And we will see you guys next time.